code, but doesn't ask for it. And we as huge companies, shame on us if we buy a big, huge piece of software for someone and we don't ask about their security, and yet we're not. I mean, that's what the OWASP contract annex is about, or whatever. It's like, negotiate with your vendor about your security, but we're not, right? So then you marry yourself to some piece of software, and a year later you're about to deploy it, and you start finding these huge issues, and you go to the vendor, and then they're like, what? You know, and you're like, well, fix it. And they're like, well, how much money are you going to pay me, or whatever. I mean, we're just not in a culture yet where a lot of people are even expecting it or negotiating for it or whatever. So it's not just the developer problem. If we could actually make the consumer demand it, then the suppliers would start supplying it if it became a competitive differentiator. And clearly it is in certain markets. Browser wars are going on with both features and security, right? OS vendors, etc. But the sort of the middle ground of all the commercial software out there, some of it's competitive and a lot of it is not.
But that also raises the question on how will you measure it? Because if you need to discuss and compare, say, competitive advantages of a product, how do you measure which product is more secure than the other? And actually to demonstrate that this is the level of security that you have in a product. And also as a company, how do you actually say that you're writing better or more secure software than your competitors? Because that will instantly get you attacked when you make those statements, and that will almost immediately also make sure that you are not the most secure company.
It depends on your claims. So I don't know if any of you guys have seen Jeff's software facts label, but that's kind of funny. So obviously food has a facts label, like it's got calories and it's got vitamins and crap. Jeff is like envision someday where you pick up a box for software and it's got ingredients, like 87% of the developers were trained in security, and the bug density was this fast, and all kinds have been fixed within 90 days, and the developers were all in Redmond and not in the Philippines and other places, if I care about origin of software. And it's written in C versus Java or .NET. There's a lot of facts that we could generate about software that would give me a little bit more confidence in the software. But right now, we've got the market for lemons problem. Nobody knows about the facts except the vendor. So the vendor knows all the warts, and the buyer knows nothing. So software security is not a factor I can use to competitively compete, because the only person who knows it is the seller. If the seller knows all the information and the buyer doesn't, then the buyer completely discounts that, right? And so, yeah, we have a problem. I mean, we need to get there, and I think we can, but we're not really pushing that hard in that space.
Because looking at the last question that you have in the slide there, on features and performance and uptime and usability, most of them can be pretty measured. They can be measured the detail levels. I'm quite surprised that I don't see a delivery on time that.
Yeah. That wasn't there. You missed that on your question.
Yeah, we didn't ask that, no.
No.
Yeah.
So I'd like to just wrap it up with a short question. I think you've already answered it, but we'll do it anyway. Are we mostly security nerds and utterly insignificant? And this applies to you too. Don't be laughing too much.
Define we.
Because this is the way I feel at times. For instance, I'll give you one little example of this. I go to OWASP conferences. I feel this is my family. This is a great place. We talk about all these things. And I do training, and also I work as a consultant, so that's perfect. Then I went to JFocus, a Java conference here in Stockholm. And one of the keynote speakers says, "Are there any developers here?" The whole lecture hall lifted their hands. And then I remember that AppSec DC, one guy asked, "Are there any developers here?" 2 guys raised their hands. And I felt as a security nerd and utterly insignificant.
Well,
So
I completely agree that we need to get our message to that audience. I mean, we're obviously doing reasonably well. I mean, I'm the OS conferences chair. I've been helping to organize conferences for 5 years, and now I got help from guys like John who do great jobs, so I don't have to work so hard, which I appreciate. But it's obviously working because we've grown to like 10 major conferences and many other dozen regional conferences around the world. But most of those are preaching to the choir still. That's okay. I mean, at least it's spreading around the planet. So we got more, like most continents have some coverage now. So that's progress.
Should we
Now,
try? Are there any developers here? Good. That's good.
Yeah, developer density at this conference blows away the one in DC, so that's good. So you've done a good job of attracting the right
We just
audience.
had feds in DC.
Yeah. But I think, you know, I would, as part of the conferences chair, I would like to reach out to other conferences. So I'd love to have an OWASP track at a big developer conference, or a Google conference, or a Microsoft conference, or whatever. And I think if we can do that, I think we can get our message out a little bit better.
I can make a personal commitment here. I'm going to take my presentation, that obviously was about application security as it qualified for the OWASP conference, and I'm going to take that to developer communities, and I'm going to work hard to get that presentation into either, well, the Java Forum or the JFocus conference or some similar conference or developer happening. And I will ensure that I will say that I presented it first time at the OWASP conference.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing that to some degree. Like Jeff Williams has spoken at Java 1, and I spoke at a Java conference in Switzerland called Jazoon several times, and we're making little progress. But I mean, I think we need to push. You know, we need to fill in the blanks on the conferences in the developer community. I mean, I think I'd rather see like OWASP was at 10 developer conferences next year. That, to me, would be a huge success on top of continuing to grow the way we are. I would love to see that.
Okay. Yeah, Pravir wants to final.
I just wanted to make a quick comment, which is, yes, I think we are security geeks, but that's good, right? I mean, in any industry, when you're trying to move anything forward, right, you need to have both the socialization part of it, which is getting out there to developers and getting people on board, and you also have moving state of the art in that field, right? Moving state of the art in application security forward. So I think that in that respect, it's okay, right? Like it's okay to have conferences that are focused on application security, and I agree with Dave that, and really what everyone else was saying, which is we need to get out more and talk in actual development conferences as well. But to that end, I think we've actually done a fairly good job. I mean, again, if you go back 5 years and you look at a Java 1 conference or something like that, it's not going to have any talks about security at all. Whereas now, you can find 1 or 2 talks maybe inserted into like a 5-day long agenda. And maybe in another 5 years, we'll actually have a track in one of those conferences about security. Maybe not. And so, again, on the whole gradient thing that I was mentioning before, I think we're getting there. We're ramping it up. It's just, I think we have more to go, right?
Okay, so let's thank the panel.